Good evening. Welcome to Tewahedo today. This sounds like a cliche. I don't know if what do you think? How do you start this?
It's also my first time. I have zero idea how to begin, what to say, where to go from here. But as far as we started it, let's welcome everyone to this show. Maybe start with the holiday cheers.
Yes. So we have Ganna right upon us. I can't wait to break the fast. I don't know about you, but it's always like this. It's I'm always excited. It's like I need the fast to miss the food that I usually.
That's why 70% of the year is pretty much fasting. I miss it all the time. Yeah. At least this year, like one good thing that I saw this year is that we had the ability to eat on Thanksgiving. Usually we don't.
Yes.
Kind of like the World Cup. Every 4 years, we get to eat on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
We appreciate you more than you know, John. Up in heaven.
What are you breaking your fast with?
See, that I don't know. This is one of the reasons why I miss living with my parents. It was great. I didn't appreciate it when I had it. Right? When I used to live with my parents, I didn't, care, what I was going to eat, how I'm going to break my fast. I know there's going to be a whole buffet of food that I can choose from.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm living
thrown down, huh?
all the time, this is what she lives for.
Yeah.
There's some of my teachers, like, Abba and Yanita, they call her the Old Testament mom. The one that takes care of everyone and all these things, and she lives for it. Even though she's very modern, she's also very traditional in that sense, always wanting to celebrate and family time. And she throws us, so that's what I look forward to. But now I'm living by myself. I have no idea what I'm gonna break my fast with. Most likely a cheeseburger or something like right after church.
Since you've been in Dallas, like, have you tried any of the spots? Like, what do you like so far?
I have zero experience outside of my house. I don't. I'm very homebodied. I don't leave my house whatsoever. But thank God to Uber Eats, brings it right to home. They have a restaurant in Addis Ababa and what is it, Desta or something?
Yeah,
it's truly joy to me.
Desta.
It brings a lot of joy to me.
Yeah.
It's just 15 minutes, 20 minutes away. So that's how I'm gonna break my fast this year. What about you?
I'm thinking of good old Chick-fil-A. Probably. But like, since it's obviously Sunday, it's Sunday. I know. I messed up. I forgot. Then, plain old, Dajisalam. Dajisalam, just, I think, Georgis really thorough. You need to come sometime for a bad. Georgis, Saxy, for anyone, wants to come through.
Promoting out here on the first episode. How much are they paying you is the question. Who throws down in the middle of the night? That's one thing I don't understand. Like, everybody should be home.
That's
the first thing I think about.
One year they actually did that. They just left us. Wow. I remember I think it was Tensai. One year we came out of Kadasi and then there was nothing. Everyone just went home. And I just thought, wow, that is tough.
They must have gotten some type of wugzat or something for them to come back strong.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, Chick-fil-A, Dajjal Salam, if they have it, I'm gonna be there because, like I said, I have nothing at home. So if there's Dajjal Salam, I'm the first one in line. I might even bless it before the priest. That's all I gotta say.
That reminds me, just Agarvit and everything. Just my earliest memory of, like, with you, and the family is like back in Zawai, and back when I was really young. I remember we would go out like late at night, just play soccer and everything. And it's so blurry. I could barely recount it, and it makes me wonder, like, what's your exposure? What's your like experience with the faith? Like, obviously, you've spoken. I'm sure if anyone has watched, you've spoken about how you've entered into the sphere of English service within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. But then, how has the faith, the Tewahedo faith, affected you positively? Before the English, came over.
Yeah. Beforehand, my exposure to the church, like everybody else back home, you're at a very early young age. You're introduced to the church. You grew up within the Sunday school system, and your upbringing is with a community of Christians. So everyone, wakes up early in the morning. They go to church. So during Filsata, the whole basically town goes to church. Most of them camp out there for the whole 14, 15 days. They don't go back home until the fast is over. So our exposure begins from home and from our community. And it was the very same way for me. As I grew up, though, I think the biggest influence that was that I lived very, very close to St. Paul College, Paulus Sohaswa Abraham Kudus Paulus College in Ethiopia. We were just 5-10 minutes walking distance from the church. So most of the scholars that you know today, the likes of Abuna Philippos, Abuna Fanuel, Magabi Addis, Shatu, and all these people used to, their dorms were there. They used to go to school there, and they were continuously would come to my home. And, my mom, like I mentioned earlier, she throws down. So whenever they don't like the food in the dorms, they come to my house and then they just hang out there. So my first exposure was just watching them, like monks and scholars, discussing scripture, discussing, the church. And it was just a beautiful thing. And I wanted to be part of that community. So that was my very first exposure to it. And thankfully, after that, after I turned 6 or something, I had the privilege of traveling to Zuwai Monastery every year, every winter, to learn, my, Dibkuna and all these things. So that's how I got, that exposure. And thankfully, we also have that, parallel, intertwined worlds as well, because both our parents are from Zuwai. Both of them served together for a very, very long time. Without us knowing that we'd be sitting here today discussing the Word of God. God already foresaw these things and have us met when we were very young over playing soccer. Now, but here we are sitting down. So what about you? What's your exposure into the EOTC?
Oh, there's much to say. But you heard it here, folks. Soccer is the way to God.
Yes.
My exposure was you're familiar with Bodhi Madam?
Of course.
There was a Sunday school movement, let's call it, that started, I'm not familiar with most of the other churches, but the one in Bodhi Madam was orchestrated primarily majority by my father. And that was very monumental, especially because I not only got to learn about the faith, but then also relationships. That's something interesting to me. Relationships has such a profound effect on the upbringing of, just people within the faith. Something I constantly hear in the Orthodox community is this sense of, like, especially after COVID, there's a sense of, internet orthodoxy that's come about where people just assume, okay, as long as I know all these concepts, okay, I have orthodoxy down. But there's something about relationships that God has instilled within us, in which experiential relationships that you experience affect you both to do good, but also to do bad. I was very lucky enough to have a family and a community that would affect me towards the better. And another thing I really thank my father for is exposing me toward our sister churches. So there's if anyone is familiar, there's a Coptic Gadam monastery in Texas. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's named after actually Saint Mary and Saint Moses, the Ethiopian.
Wow.
Ironically.
Wow.
And so just going there was, I believe, like the switch that opened up like a new world, because a lot of times I would kind of I had that connection with God, and then also with my community. I was very blessed with the amount of honest, forthright faith that I have experienced in the life of those around me, but then also just personally through the providence of God. But just experiencing the Coptic Church opened up, new avenues for me, and understanding truly, like, how does your faith bleed over, even though that doesn't sound right, bleeds over to your life. And I'm still, God willing, I'm still working on it, but definitely affected me a lot. Definitely affected me a lot. But then speaking of, what do you there's a lot of Orthodox churches, a lot of churches to begin with that proclaim that they're the correct church, that they're the Church of Christ, and then on top of that, there are a lot of Orthodox churches. So why did do you think there's this emphasis on Tewahedo? What's your input on that regard, or what's your experience with that?
I mean, we can sit here and chat about it for a very long time because it's just a very broad subject, and you can say a whole lot about it. But there's so many churches who claim the truth, right? Not just in Christianity, in so many different religions as well. The truth is what really matters, and the truth is what people are, desiring and seeking. And what we believe is the truth as well. But now you have the question of, if we claim to have the truth, what makes that the truth and theirs, false, right? And there's one thing that I did in regards to me. I've never spoken about it very publicly in this way, but right after high school, I didn't have the desire to serve. I felt like I was in the church because I was born into the faith. And because, my father was a servant, and there was significant pressure on me and my brother specifically, because we had our deaconship, but we were very young. We were supposed to act a different way. So there was significant pressure on us. So when I went to college, I felt like as if I was loosened from a certain bond. And then I started to question all these things, right? So why do I believe the things that I do believe? Why am I in this faith? Why do I believe I am right and everybody else is completely wrong? Why do I believe that my path to the kingdom of heaven is the right path, and the path that people are taking is straying them away into darkness? So I took a year or a year and a half off simply just to study what I believe, and not just what I believe, also what other people believe. So I invested without any type of bias in trying to understand. And I had so many different questions of my own, right? And that's what I did for myself in order to find the truth. So when we say, orthodoxy is the truth, or, as we define it, the straight path, the way to go, the way to move, we really have to go back and understand where that teaching came from. Even in the scriptures, it talks about stand in the ways and see, and look for the right path.
Jeremiah.
Exactly. That's exactly what we need to do. We need to stop, right? Because we can't just keep moving forward, not knowing where we are going. And I feel like that's exactly what we are doing. It's important for us to pause for a minute. I pause everything, the influences that you mentioned on, whether it be on social media, everything that we heard, because we feel like we have so much information. We feel like we know enough about everything, but truly we do not know anything about anything, especially when it comes to what we believe. So me pausing and asking questions, right? Where did this belief come? Why are we called Orthodox? Why is it the only way? And I was able to find so many answers, right? So things that I can't even describe or comprehend with my limited faith and understanding. Traveled all the way back home, spent about 5 months just traveling to different type of monasteries and asking different types of questions, right? To the point people are like, is he like an atheist now? What is he? But it really made me whole, right? Complete. In my faith. I'm not saying I'm complete, but it filled the void that I had in my heart. And I came back, I remember this was about 10, maybe 11 years ago, came back here with a heart that was ready to serve the Lord. So pausing and understanding what we believe is the most important part. That's my personal experience.
So, that's very beautiful. Yeah. I think a lot of people, and I've seen, countless people mention various struggles within the Orthodox faith, particularly, and usually, whenever they are met with that struggle, they usually turn either away from God or try to find God in a easier fashion. I can't tell you. I just moved, recently to Dallas, but I've had the pleasure of, through family. Some of my family, they go to the Baptist church here, and I've met a lot of people from that Baptist church in Dallas where people, they go to St. Michael in Dallas here. They used to go there. Their families used to go there. But then whenever they were met with these challenges, these questions, they, instead of researching, they just went, the other way and decided to, apostate or move away from the church. And it's interesting because, as you were saying, the Orthodox faith, Some people even forget that the reason the title even Orthodox is there is a form of like a label on top of the word Christian. What we are is genuinely just purely Christian. It's not like how some people say. I'm sure if you've seen on Unreal Instagram reels, they're like, oh, Catholicism is not Christianity. It's like it's its own thing. But then that's not the case at all. Orthodoxy is just it's a label to let people know, okay, this is the correct path. If you trace it all the way back, history, like there's no other argument. If you just use history, go all the way back, you'll find that this is a true church. Period. That's it. Like, we're not trying to say, oh, we're correct because we feel correct, but rather because simply we adhered to what Christ taught and what the apostles kept on preaching and what the fathers kept, as Saint Athanasius says in his writings. And so that's so powerful, and I share that actually very much so. It's a very arduous, difficult journey. A lot of people relate to that, and I'm so grateful that I am in a position where even though there are doubts that creep up, we always find our way back through the grace of God, obviously, and also just His providence just working itself out in our lives. And so that kind of brings me back to like the question of, okay, so if Christ was in Jerusalem, all right, and if he established the church with St. Peter, what is, do you think, the significance of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church? So if people want to be, truly like the follower of Christ, wouldn't you think they would have to, that's like their notion, like the point with the Zionism movement, for example. People would think you have to go back, but then what is the significance, do you think, of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Tewahedo specifically, and like that term Tewahedo even? Why is that in the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, but then not in the other Orthodox churches?
Yeah, it's really in the word, right? Just as a straight path, true path is in the meaning of orthodoxy, in the word of Tewahedo, there is also a definition for it or an understanding of it as well. In the teachings of our scholars, our teachers, we can look at it from two perspectives. The first one is understanding the nature of Christ, right? So Tewahedo comes from the Ge'ez verb tawahada, right? Made union, unified. That's how we define it, right? So it's speaking about the nature of God incarnating the human nature, made one, without the separation, the confusion, the mixture of those two natures. And to identify that's what we believe. We use the word Tewahedo. And it's also to distinguish from other Orthodox churches that have a different idea of what Tewahedo is or Christ is. It really separates us from them. I wish, I think maybe there may have been some meetings to come together and define it. Maybe, hopefully in the future, we can unify the churches. But right now, at this moment, it's very important for us to understand those distinctions so that we truly know why we are called Tewahedo and why they don't believe in the nature of Christ that we believe in. So for us, one, it's the nature of God. Also, secondly, it's something that we should discuss as well. It's the unification of Christians with Christ as well. As Christ says, I am, he is, St. Paul says he is the head of the church and we're part of the body. And also Christ says the moment we partake from the flesh and blood, we abide in him. So abiding in him and unifying with him, right? And having that nature to share with him is truly incredible. That's exactly what he did for us. It was the desire of Adam to be like God, and it was God that says, no, that's not the way. Let me show you the way. And it's God that came down and actually showed us the way. So that's why we say in incarnation, God became man and man became God, right? The fulfillment of Adam's wish was through Christ. And it's through Christ we get to experience this desire of unification with God. And that's what sets us apart. And the Ethiopian Orthodox Church identifies that And the moment you know who the true Christ is, then you can unify with him. Right. So, for example, if people heard of my name, like the Diakon Gorgoris, but they have no idea what I am. If some places they preach I'm a woman, that's completely wrong. Right. That's not my nature. By nature, I'm a male, right?
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
I cannot resonate. Like it's like I do not know you. That's exactly what Christ would say too if we do not know him intimately and his nature as well. Exactly. So understanding his nature is very, very significant. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church truly teaches the true nature of Christ, so that we can be in union with him. That's
exactly. I think of when you're speaking about the church. I think of two particular things. So the first thing, what you mentioned, a lot of us we have almost like a weird relationship with prayer. On what you mentioned about Adam, like it's the first prayer in Wudaሴ ማርያም ፈቀደ እግዚአብሔር ለአዳም ሕዝቡን ወተኩሳ ልብ ወያግብኦ ሀበ ዘተካዘ መንበሩ. So like the Lord willed to return Adam to his former place. How does he do that? Through unifying with Christ, like the new Adam, so that he can be raised back up to his former stature, which is to be in the image of God and the likeness of God, to subdue the earth, to be fruitful and multiply.
Exactly.
And so like that is packed in that little line.
Yeah.
And I that's so powerful to me, just the prayers. But then the second thing is just a little bit of an anecdote, is and brings us to the next question, is in the Eastern Church I've noticed this trend. It's that there's arguments that go on about the true calendar, and we've definitely had that too, I'm sure. Some Eastern churches, they use the old calendar, meaning the one we are about to celebrate Ganna, for those of us who are watching.
Yeah.
And then there are those that already celebrated Ganna on December 25th.
Yeah.
And some of us assume, like Orthodox churches celebrate on December 25th.
Yeah.
But then, it's interesting to see that, like, in the Eastern churches, there are two factions. And then some of them celebrate on January 7th, but then some of them celebrate on December 25th. But both are unified. They both live in even though there are still arguments, there's still people that, argue about, okay, this is correct, this is not. It reminds me of, when Paul talks about people in the Romans, when if people eat, let them eat for the glory of God. If people don't eat, let them eat, do the same thing for the glory of God. And then you see that unification even in the Eastern Church. And in the same way here, we have so many untouched things, so many unvalued things, that if we were to kind of unify with the generation before us, if we were to kind of communicate with the generation before us and try to see, as you had, as I had, ask the questions, learn about what the Orthodox faith, what Tewahedo means, we definitely could live this unified life, not always fighting about who's going to wake up to go, at what time to wake up to go to church, what time, like, should I do Qurban, or it's like, and then just all these list of excuses that we try to tell ourselves to make it okay that we are not unified, with Christ. Which brings me to the point of this, what you mentioned earlier about St. Paul. There's this vision of one church, all right? And so how do you believe the vision of this one church being tied to the bridegroom Christ, how does that relate to Christ, God becoming human? How do you think that those things relate together? Because that's definitely an image that not only St. Paul would purport, but a lot of the fathers, time and time again, they would mention Christ as the bridegroom, the church is the body of Christ, and then how that relates. We could see like some of the typology and the symbolism. Anything stand out for you?
For me, I think you kind of touched up on it as well. It is this sense of unity, no matter what, where you are in the church. You should be able to feel the presence of Christ and have the understanding that no matter where you are, this Christ, His grace is going to be with you. That's why I think I believe it's in Zephaniah that God says, "My daughters from across the river will bring forth my sacrifices."
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter where you are, right? So one church, different locations, it really doesn't matter because we resemble the one church that is in heaven, and we worship the God of the heaven and earth. So that unity is what Saint Paul is also looking for within the epistle as well. I'll let you continue with that point, but I would like to also address, right? So even when we greet each church, we have the same type of greeting. Salam alaikum ቅድስት ቤተክርስቲያን አምሳለ ኢየሩሳሌም ሰማያዊት. So we're greeting the very same church, and that is because it is the church of Christ. So we see in the book of Revelation as well, all these saints dressed in white, worshiping God in the same temple. Right, they're worshiping the Lamb, right? The Lamb of God, that is being Christ Himself. So because they have washed their clothes and turned it white by the blood of the Lamb, they are in unity, praising God and worshiping God. And we ought to do the very same thing. That's why we come to church every single Sunday wearing our white, to signify that we have unity with the saints in the heavens as well. So when we have the understanding of worshiping Christ and having Him abiding in us, living the sacramental lifestyle, then there is unity with everyone. There is no division whatsoever. But now, because we're not up to par as far as spirituality goes, as far as Christ abiding in us, we see a lot of division, even amongst within the same church, even amongst within the same parish and archdiocese. We see a lot of differences and division. So that's what St. Paul was trying to prevent, so that we wouldn't be like the Church of Corinth, where they're divided by just mere traditions and misunderstandings. That's my take on it. But
interesting that you mentioned the tradition component, because we have a lot of that. You know, I've met people, talk to people where they would have issues with some of, our favorite mothers.
Yeah.
They're beautiful, amazing. We love them. Their food is amazing too.
Yeah.
But they end up, they would have, some sort of altercation with the women or the hair of the kids. It's not that, I'm not siding with the kids, but then there's this aspect of, a confusion between unity and uniformity. And this uniformity meaning, okay, everyone has to look the same, almost like a totalitarian government, I think of it.
Yeah.
But there is what Christ purports, is He comes to you, each and every single one of us, and then He transfigures your life with the components of your life. Meaning, for example, we talked earlier about our story, and it's still unfolding. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
But many of the components between my story and yours is not the same, and that's completely fine. That's how it works, and that's how divine providence has orchestrated it, as long as we work with it. But that doesn't mean that my story is more right or more correct than your story, than whoever else's story. And just because someone doesn't, as you said earlier with the traditions, sometimes we have to defer between the capital T tradition, which is what the apostles have passed down to us, what Christ has taught them, and then Tawfit, meaning the let's say idiosyncrasies of specific churches. So for example, I love gushas. Do you love gushas?
Of course.
I
lived off.
am
my mom gush has like 3 plates.
Yeah. Man, I would love to taste your mom's food, man. I still haven't had the time.
Oh man, you're missing out.
Yeah, I'm definitely like next time she comes, but especially I'm looking forward to the gushas from Magabi Hadis of our church.
Nope.
Saxy, by the way, for you guys promotion. And so I think of gursha. If you give a gursha to someone who's Coptic, they're gonna look at you weird and then say, "What are you doing, man?" And then just treat you weirdly, and then be like, that's so odd."
Yeah.
And so, but then when you bring that into the Ethiopian context, which is it's part of our lowercase tradition, our culture, it's met with love. It serves as a way of unification. It serves as a way of completing the work of God but through that symbol of gursha, and we can, extrapolate what it means, but then simply put, though, that gursha is a symbol of love for another person, like, even though it's, some people don't like it, because of the filth. Apparently, I've met kids like, oh, la gursha chuzi. They're like, nah, man, like, I don't know where your hand's been, type of thing. And like, battery.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Of course.
Yeah, and so that there's that like unity, and then like no separation, like no like, you see the same, like,
of course,
exactly. And so, in that same manner, we see this misunderstanding, of between uniformity and unity again, which we have to push towards unity, and unity is God loves us even though, and as St. Paul said in his epistle, even though we're sinners, Christ still died for us. And us coming back to him wasn't a precondition for his love. So in that same manner, us loving others, or seeking that unity or purporting that unity, shouldn't come at the precondition of someone doing what I think is right, or what Diakon Gorogoro thinks is right, in the minute sense, like, and there has to be a common understanding among our fellow parishioners, our fellow Christians, because plenty of people just left. They leave because there's that misunderstanding, miscommunication, and this is like a simple tweak we can adjust, that can help our spiritual life, that can help our understanding and manifestation of the word Tewahedo itself, because we're manifesting, the priest, the altar, the body of Christ, making all of us one, and then with each other first. And then I remember one of the saints actually used the analogy of a wheel when expressing how the community gets closer to God. So there's a wheel. I think it was Saint Maximus, I believe. So there's a wheel, and God is at the center, and that's usually how a church even is built. It's in a circular manner, and then the middle is the Maqdis. And so as you get closer to the Maqdis, like the people around the wheel, they get closer to each other, and they unify. And it's not to say that we have to be uniform, but then there's this aspect of unity that's necessary for the full vision of Christ coming down, that love, like him being pulled down, that love to be fulfilled. There's that unity that needs to happen. I believe, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
For a first one.
Oh, yeah, not bad at all. When one thing that we must address is that, I think, like you said, tweaking a little bit as far as approaching people, especially when it comes to these kind of traditions, maybe covering your hair or cutting your hair and all these things. It's just the approach that we need to have with the youth needs to be with a certain caution and with a certain love, right? Going back to the very same thing that we were talking about, this unification, right? Christ being the head of the body, and then us being the body parts, right? It's yelling at these kids or rebuking them. It's as if yelling at your own feet for stumbling on a rock. It doesn't make sense. You wouldn't do that. It's your body part. You would just you punish yourself, let alone you're not going to yell at your feet. But it seems ridiculous. It doesn't know any better. So it needs to be in the same manner. We need to treat them with caution. And then the closer they are to Christ as well, let alone this very small things, they can do a lot more, and they have a lot to offer to the church as well. So unity, Christ abiding in us being unified is the essential. I think it's a good first part of podcast.
Yeah. So do you want to, I think the questions that we've received, that would be a good segue. So the first one that stood out to me actually is the one about a distress call. A fellow Christian says, "Why is it so difficult to love God and follow Him knowing that He is the way.
Oh, I don't know. What do you think?
It's
It's a very like I say, it's a difficult question. This has to be a very personal connection, right? So I wish there was a platform where we can have a certain back and forth and see where he's coming from or she's coming from, right? So he says, knowing that God is loving and kind and all these things, why is it difficult for me to love? Love really is founded upon trust. If we do not have trust in God, then for us to love Him, it becomes very, very difficult. That's one. Two, as we do not know who God is to begin with, right? We don't know Him. You can't love somebody that you do not know, right? You can't love somebody that you just met as well. All right. And the way we are with God is the same manner. For example, we are in a social gathering, and then there's always that one person that's very outgoing and fun to be around with. And you have a great time with this person. And most of us experience the very same thing when it comes to God. We come to church once in a while and we meet Him, this great being, gives a lot of grades, outgoing, loving, but you do not know how to love Him or if you can have a relationship with Him because you have no idea who He is. You haven't met Him. You just met Him in that moment. It was very circumstantial, your engagement. So that's one of the things. We need to get to know who God is in order for us to love Him. Very simply, and then also trust Him. And to trust God, you have to let go of a lot of things. That becomes almost impossible because we can't let go of what we have to trust, right? So that is what is required of us in order to love Him, right? We all know that God is all loving. He loves us. He wants us close. But trusting Him and getting to know Him takes time, effort, and motion. So all these things, are we willing to invest? That's the question that I would like to ask this person. And if it is, then let go and get to know. So you may love Him.
That's a bar right there. Let go and get to know. That's beautiful. That's beautiful right there. I thought you were going to go another direction. There's another one like I hear it among the Protestant circles. Let go and let God.
Let go and let God.
Yeah, I thought
Jesus
you were
take the wheel.
Yeah, that's
This is the Orthodox version.
Yeah, that's the one.
Tewahedo version.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Wow. I think you've definitely answered that pretty succinctly. I think as anyone could go. I was just trying to see if there's another question that might be a little more succinct. A lot of these are more broader. Okay, this one is pretty interesting. How often should we confess?
Oh, that's good.
How often
That's
should
all
we
you.
confess?
How often do you confess?
I'm a topping. Okay, so with what you said just now, it's the spiritual life. I was just listening to a talk by a beloved father. I love him. I wish he was still alive so I could meet him. He one thing he says is there's this new generation thing that we've started doing, this aspect of how is your spiritual growth? That question. And he was joking about it, saying, do you think Christ was asking his disciples, how are you spiritually doing? And then just trying to, make it a little like a dialogue type of thing. But then, so what this father's trying to allude to is the Orthodox faith is has a therapeutic approach. And what that means is the goal of it, as we said earlier, is to be one, to unify with God, with Christ, to be images of Christ on earth. That's literally what the word Christian even means. Yeah. Little Christians, little Christs.
Yeah.
And so in that manner, when we are working towards, let's say, for lack of a better word, growth, we have to do, certain things. And the reason we do them is because, we're created by God in the image of God. And so only He knows how we should operate, live, go about things. And so he introduced for us through the apostles. We can read the scripture for that, the Gospels, the opportunity of this thing, confession. Right, and this existed. This is not a new thing. This existed back in the Old Testament as well with the priests, but then the way in which it occurred is a little different. The Levites would be the priests that would take a confession, but then in this case, it's Christ that's appointing the apostles and then putting them on this journey of stewardship to forgive the sins of any, and then also retain the sins of any. And so, which brings us to the question: how often should we confess? You should confess as often as your spiritual father tells you, because again, as we said earlier, we don't aim for uniformity, but rather unity. So if we're aiming for unity, some people are sicker. We have to be honest about this, because truth is truth. We can't change it. Some of us might be sicker. I am one of those people. So I have to go to confession minimum, I was told, once a month is pretty standard.
Okay.
But then, it's up to the discretion of your spiritual father, because the act of confession is not simply just speaking to your father. Contrary to majority of the movies that you see on Hollywood, replaying Catholic confessions, it's not just, I just say the stuff and then I'm told, given, penance, and then that's it. Rather, it's a movement between Christ and then the mediator between Christ and the confessor, the priest, and the confessor, the person that's confessing. And so the spiritual father is guiding the person that's confessing through the Holy Spirit. And he's, even when the priest is ordained, as a symbol of the Holy Spirit being with him, the bishop blows on his face, like, air.
Yeah.
And it's very important, to understand that. So how often should you confess? As often as your priest tells you, because, it depends on your spiritual health. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think that's good.
You want to add anything?
That's it. That's good enough.
Okay.
I will do more as episodes go.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I think this is a great way to close our first episode, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's been one journey. What did you think of it?
Me? It's a really good first one.
Yeah.
I think we need a little bit more jokes. We might need. So we have Sammy in the back here.
Yeah.
We might need to employ Sammy more than the lights to write jokes, to look up jokes.
That's a must. That's a must. But I had a great time.
But besides that, I think it was pretty decent.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us here in Tewahedo today.